Hi, this is Sarit Switzer, and welcome to the It Is Taught podcast, a podcast devoted to the teachings of Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi as recorded in his most famous work, the Tanya. My hope for this show is to make these teachings accessible and relatable to the average person, regardless of prior Jewish education or affiliation. The episodes follow the prescribed daily study portions and are meant to serve as practical lessons in how to live your life as your true self and develop an authentic and powerful relationship with your Creator. I have personally experienced the effects the study of this work has had on me, and I'm excited to share what I can of this knowledge with you. So please join me on this journey of learning, self-growth, and connection with your source. Hi, and welcome to the It Is Taught podcast. This is episode 659 for the 26th of Elul in a regular year. So there is a famous phrase, which you may have heard, that goes, "There's no rest for the wicked." Turns out that this phrase actually is Christian in origin. I did not know this, but I found it out in researching today's episode. And how interesting is that when in Judaism, actually, we have an opposing phrase, which comes from the Gemara in Masechet Brachos, which says, "The righteous never rest." So we actually flip it on its head and we say that there's no rest for the righteous. That's what we focus on. So when we talk about there being no rest for the righteous, what we mean by this, it's actually pretty multifaceted, is in a very simple way. We know that, good people are never satisfied. If somebody is working and trying to, on self-improvement, on trying to be a better person, once they improve in a certain area of life, they're not satisfied, they move on, they work on something else. Let's say somebody's raising charity for one organization, they raise the charity, great. Oh, wow, now they heard that there's a bride and groom that needs funds. Now there's a sick person that needs funds. They're going to continuously keep trying to do better and more and more and more. And there's not going to be a lot of rest for them. Somebody whose life is devoted to goodness is constantly going to be trying to do more and better and good. And this is true really on a more subtle spiritual level as well. When we talk about righteous people, when we talk about tzaddikim, which we've spoken about in the Tanya as to what the definition of that means, truly righteous individuals who have either squashed their evil inclination completely or transformed it. Even after they pass away, you would think, okay, once the person passed away, they lived a righteous life, now they can finally rest. Guess what? No, because in this world to come, there are actually many levels too in Gan Eden, so once the righteous, they're sitting and they're learning Torah and they come to a certain level of total self-abnegation before God, one could say, then guess what? There's another level of self-abnegation before God, believe it or not, and it's constant and it's going. So even after a righteous person passes away, their work continues. They're ascending from level to level to level to level. So do they ever rest? Just person just really doomed, quote unquote, to constantly be in this state of movement and flux and ascension. Even if it's a good kind of ascension, it's still, it's not a settled kind of thing. So what we're going to be learning about today is that there is a time when actually the righteous will finally be able to rest. When is that time? That's actually going to be in the future era, in the time of the resurrection of the dead down here on earth. That is the time when godliness will really be so fully manifest down here that it will no longer be about revelations. It will no longer be about getting to the next revelation, getting to the next level, getting to the next level. We're going to be beyond levels. We're going to be tapping into and experiencing the essence of God. And that essence of God, we started talking about this yesterday, is really only going to be manifest in that future era, in the time of the resurrection of the dead down here on earth. And if you had to take a wild guess based on what we've been learning in the past little while or big while, for a while now in the Tanya, if you had to think of something that could actually help prepare the world to come into this state, into this essential state of godly manifestation, of true essential manifestation and experience of God, what do you think we might be able to do in order to propel that forward, to help bring this about? So if you're guessing giving tzedakah, you'd be absolutely correct. That is the answer, because that is a big focus, as we know this past little while in this section of the Tanya. All of these epistles, the Alter Rebbe is really focusing on the giving of tzedakah, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. And to do so, the Alter Rebbe is actually going to bring us back to the very beginning of this epistle, and this is Epistle 17 that we've been studying over the past couple of days, and he's going to bring us back there where we brought up this verse, this pasuk from Tehillim, which said "Rechava mitzvatcha me'od," that your mitzvah is very wide. And we're going to talk about what this means. We're going to discuss this idea of the mitzvah, meaning the mitzvah of tzedakah, and why it is very wide. And in brief, what we're going to talk about is that when we talk about it being wide, what we mean by that is that it has this like kind of energetic width, that it has the capacity to contain within it the true infinity of God, a type of infinity that goes beyond just infinity of like Gan Eden, of the world to come, in the sense of when people pass away in the world of the souls, but a true type of infinity, like to really contain the essence of God, the essence of godliness. That is the power of tzedakah. That's the unique power of tzedakah, and that's what makes tzedakah very wide. That's why it's referred to as being very wide. So with that being said, let's get into the text and see how the Alter Rebbe explains all of this. For context, we're going to be concluding Epistle 17 today of Iggeres HaKodesh. So here we go. So the Alter Rebbe begins, and he indeed begins with this verse where he brings up Rechava mitzvatcha me'od, which comes from Tehillim, chapter 119, verse 96. And the Alter Rebbe tells us that this is a reference to the mitzvah of tzedakah, because tzedakah is a vessel and like in a very wide area that vests within it the radiance of God. As we say in the Rosh Hashanah prayers, which is coming up pretty soon, levushot tzedakah, his garment is tzedakah. So meaning to say that there's something about tzedakah that creates this radiance and kind of like this vehicle, this vessel to be able to contain God's radiance. And in the future to come, in the time of the resurrection of the dead, this radiance will shine without any limit or any end. With chesed chinam, it's called, with gratuitous kindness, through this arousal from below, this asarus del tata, which is called the derech Hashem, the path of God, right? Which we spoke about before. It's the path of God because we're emulating God. And this is why not only does it say rechava mitzvatcha, your mitzvah is wide, but it says rechava mitzvatcha me'od, very wide, because it's without any end, without any limit. And so, but now the Alter Rebbe brings up a question, is he says that there's a citation, a verse in Tehillim, chapter 119, verse 96, which says, L'chol tichla ra'iti ketz, which literally means, for every tichla, for every conclusion, I have seen an end. So what does this mean? That this seems to imply that there's always an end to something. So, but we talked about this idea of infinitude, of there being no ends to this revelation. So the Alter Rebbe explains, he says this word tichla, it means, it's related to the term kaluta nefesh, the expiration of the soul that happens in Gan Eden. And for this, it does have a limit because it goes through a lot of contractions, as we explained above. So this tichla, this expiration of the soul, like there's, when people pass away, there's a true expiration. There's a nullification of the soul. And for this, there is a limit because then it's like they get to Gan Eden. And as we described, there's a limit there to their intellectual knowledge, to their experience in Gan Eden. And this is the meaning, says the Alter Rebbe, of this whole idea of for every tichla. So this tichla is related to Gan Eden specifically, and it's because within Gan Eden there's many different levels. There's a higher level, a lower level, each one according to their ability, according to their level on earth. So it's like the more Torah and more mitzvahs a person's involved with down here on earth, that's going to dictate the level of where they're at in Gan Eden and what they're going to experience. And the Alter Rebbe says that this is the explanation of this teaching that's found at the end of Masechet Brachos, where it says that Talmidei Chachamim en lehem menucha chulei. There's no rest for the Torah scholars, not in this world and not in the next, because they're always going from level to level to level in their Torah knowledge. And there's no end to this. Until in the resurrection of the dead, that's when they're going to have rest. That's when rest is going to happen. And that teaching comes from the end of the Masechet of Tamid in the Gemara. So that's the end of the section for today. And so just to, kind of tie it all together, bringing in yesterday's episode as well into today's episode, ultimately the physical world is where it's at. The physical world, again, we can think of it with the mashal, lahavdil, of listening to music versus just learning about music theory. The physical world in the times of the resurrection from the dead, that's going to be when we're actually going to hear the music. That's when we're going to experience the music. For the souls in Gan Eden right now, they're just learning music theory. And we shouldn't say just, because it is a big deal. It is something very profound and deep, and there's a lot to it. But it's not truly experiential in the sense of the sensing and listening and hearing the music. And just like, again, in music theory, there's different, you can get more complex, less complex, all those things. There's different levels within that world of Gan Eden in terms of how much or how little people are comprehending. And in terms of the true revelation, they're getting it in a mediated way through those crowns on their head, through the Keter. But eventually, in the time of Tchias HaMesim, they're all going to experience the same music. They're all going to hear the same thing. So that's not going to have, it's going to be a more restful state where we're not going to have these same levels. And the preparation for all of this is through giving tzedakah, because tzedakah creates this vessel for all of this whole process to happen. It's called the wide mitzvah. That's very wide because it brings about this width, this vessel, this vehicle to bring about this revelation. So that's it for today. And tomorrow we will begin a new epistle, Epistle 18 of Iggeres HaKodesh. So stay tuned for that, and I will speak to you then. Thanks for listening to the It Is Taught podcast, hosted by Sarit Switzer. This podcast is dedicated in loving memory of my maternal grandfather, Avraham Yitzchak ben Binyamin HaKohen of blessed memory. Music by Shoshana. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to support the show, please share it with others and subscribe on YouTube, Apple iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And make sure to leave us a 5-star review. To find out more about the It Is Taught project, including more information on my soon-to-be published book, please visit our website, itistaught.com. To catch the latest from me, follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Looking forward to speaking with you tomorrow, and until then, have a great day.